I just realized that Georgia is both a country in Europe and a US state, but today we're going to be talking about the US state. So grab a blanket, turn off your lights for 3 true scary stories that happened in Georgia. "1318 Smoky Road. Before I get into the ghostly experience I had in this house, and there were many, let me give you a history of the house. This house has 3 parts to it. It had a rock-covered middle that contained 2 rooms and 2 fireplaces, and a door going out to the back porch. It was once used as a hunting cable over 100 years ago. On each side of the rock structure, a wing was built. One wing contained 2 large rooms with a fireplace in one room, which contained a door that led to a side porch, and the other wing contained 5 rooms, kitchen with fireplace, and a door that led to the back porch, dining room, with a door leading to the back porch, bathroom, and 2 bedrooms. My late husband, my 2 sons, and I lived mainly in the biggest wing in the middle area. The other 2 rooms were closed off during the winter months, and one of the rooms was used for storage. The 2 wings were over 50 years old, and yes, your calculations are right. This room has 4 fireplaces, 3 doors leading to the back porch, and a door leading to the side porch. Now, 4 people died in or near the house, my husband being the last. My husband Jeff, of 6 years, died from congested heart failure due to complications of diabetes. My husband died approximately 1 a.m. on March 14th, 1999. I found him the next morning at approximately 8 a.m., having slept by him all night. Jeff's mother died in a hospital near the house in 1992. His brother was shot and died about a mile from the house, and his father died in the house in 1955. I moved in with Jeff in September 1993. I loved that old house. It was cozy and very roomy. I first started to notice cold drafts in certain areas of the house, and on several occasions felt a presence behind me, mostly in the kitchen. The presence would be so strong that I would talk to it, thinking it was Jeff or one of my children, and then turn around to find no one there. I would shrug it off and go about what I was doing. My oldest son, then 5, came to me and told me that there was a man standing at the foot of his bed the night before, and it scared him so bad that he hid under the covers and went to sleep. When I told Jeff this, he said that the house was haunted and that he's seen his mother, father, and brother in the house one time or another. Throughout the years that we lived there, it was 8. I have seen shadows moving through the rooms, and my sons were always hearing footsteps in their rooms. One day, Jeff and I were sitting in our bedroom watching TV when my 2 sons came running into our bedroom and said a man was at the door and wanted to know if we were home. The door that the man came to was the door off from the rock-structured part of the house. No one ever came to that door. There would have been no reason. As I have said, all the doors with the exception of the one that leads to the back porch, and any visitors always knew to come to the kitchen door, because when you drove up to the house, the first floor, you would always just see the kitchen door. Off the back porch, there were 12 acres of land, and in front of the house, the road front, you could see far up the road each way. Anyways, back to the story. Jeff and I got up to see who it was. When we got to the door, no one was there. Jeff went outside and went around the house and saw no one. We would have heard a car if this person had one, and if this man was on foot, we would have seen him before he got anywhere too far. That little incident puzzled me for a while. As I mentioned, my husband, Jeff, died in that house. After a while, I remarried, and I shared the house with my new husband, Mike. Mike and I were watching TV one night in the rock-structured part of the house when all of a sudden, we both heard this breezy moan behind Mike's recliner. I looked at Mike, but did not say anything. Mike looked at me and asked me if I heard that. I replied that I had, and that it was Jeff. Mike said it was the wind, but the wind was not blowing that night. I knew that it was Jeff because I could feel his presence. Jeff was a very opinionated man, and I think he was showing his disapproval of Mike. Right after Mike and I married, we had his family over to the house for a cookout. Mike's grandmother pulled Mike to the side and told him she was sorry, but she would never come back to her house because there were bad spirits in the house. I'm sorry that this was such a long story, and this will be the longest of all of my stories. Mike's grandmother was not the only one to feel uneasy in that house. Several of my friends told me, after I sold the place and moved, that they too felt something was there, and they would never figure out why I wasn't scared to stay there at night. But I had grown accustomed to all the shadows and other things, and it never really bothered me. Grinning entity and random spooks. A little background information. I'm an only child and generally have the entire house to myself. My parents both work a lot and they are frequently out of town. Our house is a fairly large one, and it feels even bigger when I'm home alone. Luckily, I have 2 cats that keep me company. My family is not religious either, and we're basically agnostic. I've always been fascinated by the paranormal, occult, and unknown ever since I was mature enough to grasp the concept. But I was also a major skeptic because I never experienced anything myself. While I secretly wish for a paranormal experience just to prove me wrong, I also have this paranoia and fear that something random will pop out at me and scare the living daylights out of me. Anyways, this event happened to me when I was about 16 years old, maybe 4 months after I moved into the house. This house is fairly new, and there has only been one family living here before us. I am currently 23 and still live at the same house as this experience. Before this, I had never had anything too unusual happen to me. Several years ago, I was sleeping in my room at night. I was in high school and I had class the next day, so I went to bed pretty early. I remember suddenly waking up in the middle of the night. I instinctively look at my clock. It was 2:10 a.m. Normally, I have problems falling asleep and staying asleep, but this time was different. It felt like something beckoned me awake. Anyways, I tried to get out of bed, assuming I just had to go to the bathroom and get some water. As I tried to sit up, I realized I couldn't move. I felt completely awake, but my body felt like it was paralyzed or something. I was a little confused, but this didn't freak me out for some reason. But what did freak me out was the sudden distinct feeling of a presence in the room. I'm not sure how to describe it, but it was very clear. It was a vivid feeling that something wanted me to know that it was in the room, or that I could sense it. I was able to look around and I could see my room very clearly. The moon was shining through my window blinds, so there was a little bit of light lighting up the room. I started to get really scared because I still couldn't move any part of my body except my eyes. How long was this going to last? The next thing I felt was my vision getting kind of hazy. I realized after a few moments it wasn't my vision that was becoming hazy. There was a light smoky mist forming in front of my face. I watched in a state of confusion and fear. The ball of smoke started to get thicker and thicker until it took on the appearance of a face. Of course, this was scaring the living daylights out of me. I remember trying to scream or move, but I couldn't do anything. I was so terrified. This entity seemed to know I was freaking out or something. It suddenly got this huge, wicked grin on its face. All you can see are these huge hollow eye sockets and this scary, menacing grin. A moment later, I felt heavy pressure on my chest. It felt like something was pushing down on my chest or making it difficult for me to breathe. I tried with all my will to scream or move or call for help or anything. It was such an unnatural feeling of terror. I thought for sure that something was trying to possess me. If possessions really exist, I figured that this was what I was experiencing. I felt the pressure on my chest continuing and pushing down harder. I didn't know what to do. I was scared for my life. I was convinced if this spirit had its way with me, I would lose a very vital part of my being. The last thing I did was just praying for someone to help me. I don't know who or what's out there, but I whimpered inside my mind, if there's anything out there watching or listening, please save me. And just kept repeating it to myself. And after a moment, I felt this presence disappear. It was incredible. And it wasn't like, and then I woke up. It felt like it really just happened a moment ago. I couldn't go back to sleep the rest of the night. and I didn't want to wake my mom up to tell her what happened because she would tell me it was a nightmare or she would think I was crazy. I just stayed up thinking about what happened to me. Was it real, or did I imagine it? Previously, I had not been a believer of superstitious or paranormal things, but this experience changed all of that. The whole experience felt so real and was like unlike anything I'd ever experienced in my entire life. I wonder if it went away because I prayed or because if it was just messing around with me. After that occurrence, there were 2 minor occasions where something odd has happened. One time, about 5 months later, I was in the kitchen cooking something. I was home alone at the time, and my cat was sitting on the windowsill nearby. I had just turned the stove off and was about to sit down at the table to eat my food when one of my cats suddenly darts from the living room into the basement. Something must have scared her because she ran so fast she knocked over a plant near the staircase. I got up and walked towards the staircase, which is next to the living room, to place the plant back. Just as I get near the staircase, I hear this high-pitched screeching sound. It didn't even sound human. It was very loud, almost like a scream, with an echoey, vibrating sound. The cat near me jumped off the sill and ran into the backyard. I was so scared at what the noise could be that I didn't even go into the living room, so I just left my house through the backyard and went to a friend's place down the street until my parents came back from work. My parents called me later and asked me what happened to the plant, and when I told them what I thought happened, my parents just laughed it off. The second time was when I was home alone as well, and I was doing homework on my laptop. I was in the basement, and the door to the garage is pretty close down the hallway. I was listening to some soft music when I suddenly hear someone jiggle the doorknob in the garage. This immediately scares me because the only way you can get into the garage is by going through the way where the car goes. I knew it was closed because our garage is extremely loud and shakes the house when it opens or closes, or obviously from inside the house. I muted my music on the laptop, put it down, and turned on all the lights in my apartment. It didn't happen again, so I decided to calm down and try to go back to work. I turned off a couple of lights, and then I hear the doorknob jiggle again. I assumed it could have been an intruder rather than a ghost, so I decided to grab a kitchen knife. But after going to the kitchen, I decided to just go to my friend's house again since I was too afraid of what I may encounter. Other than that, everything is pretty keen here. Haven't had strange experiences for 5 years now. All of this happened in the span of probably 9 months. A nice experience. I have seen things before, and since this experience, but I usually want to forget about them or try to. I had recently went through a divorce and moved into an apartment. It was just me and my cat and dog. My dog has always slept in her own bed in my room. When we moved here, she would make me up at night barking. One night I woke up to her barking, and there was a little girl reaching up and touching a doll I had on a shelf. I looked away and looked back, and she was still there. I got up and turned on the light and went back to bed. But I continued to feel her there, and it was comforting. I started to play a game with her. I would tuck the dress of the doll up around her legs, and it would always sooner or later be pulled back down. Eventually, my 22-year-old son moved in with me. When he would do his laundry, he would leave the dryer door open, which would upset me because my cat would get in there, and it was turned on one time with him in it. Every once in a while, the dryer door would slam shut by itself, and I think it was her because she knew it upset me. We eventually moved, and my dog started barking at night, and the dryer door never slammed shut by itself again. I miss her to this day. She came into my life when I really needed someone, and wonders if others haven't attached to spirits and missed them. I hope to meet her one day and find out who she was in life and what happened to her. I never felt she was angry or sad. She was just a playful little girl. Because of her, I am also not so afraid of the things I feel and experience.